All right. So the first part will be the foundation of generative AI. So I'll say generative AI is a conversational AI, which is built on the large language model, right? And many of them, if you play around with that, you're probably very familiar with this description, LLM, right? So here is a very simple version about how it actually works. So the language model, what it does, it breaks the language down into smaller pieces. That's what we call the token. Right, so each word could be represented by either one token or multiple tokens. Right, so for example, cat, dog, hi, hello, those can just be one individual token. Right, but if we have a longer word, let's say computer, right, most likely it's going to be split into two separate tokens, com, and then followed by puter. Because after the letter com, there are many other things that can also come after that, right? Let's say company, compound, complicated, so on and so on, right? So that's just how it works. So the next token is generated based on the likelihood of the language model that it was trained on. So we can say, here's a quick example. So we can say, hi team, just a quick update. Our project is currently on, and then what do you think the next token or the next word would be? Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself or you can type your answers in the chat.
Schedule.
On schedule, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, Jason says on time. Any other thoughts?
On track.
On track, yeah, that's also good. And maybe we can also have like on hold. Yeah, okay, Jason got that. Yeah, so those are all the commonly used words that we use to describe a project status in business environment, right? So the results are, I would say, if we're asking an individual person, we're gonna have different preference based on like what we usually say or based on the actual project status, right? But if we just plugging the sentence into generative AI platform, then the result will actually purely based on statistics, right? So you can say most likely maybe hold or time is going to happen after all the tokens that before the result that we're looking for, right? So it predict the text based on the massive data set that it was used to train the model, right? And those data are the articles, the reports, basically all the documents that human created to support and letting the language model know that what is what is the human behavior when it comes to generating the words. And when speaking about the statistics, excuse me, so we can say actually 85% of the time, people use on track, right? And those data are collected in the hundreds and millions of corporate emails, and then followed by schedule. And on hold accounts for like 4% of that. And lastly, we have 1% people using fire, which I would say there's nothing wrong with that, right? It is possible that sometimes we'll get ourselves in like huge troubles with projects. But technically speaking, in professional patterns, we tend not to use on fire, even if it's really, really bad, right? Um, but still, some people use that. So that is how Copilot or any other generative AI tools would generate the result for us, right? And that is why grounding it to our own information or the own file or data matters so much, right? So here comes the big question. How do we ground AI to a specific knowledge, right? So Copilot is actually using the GPT's language model by default, and that language model is trained by general data across the internet, right? But if we have a specific information on a particular project or program, then it's almost gonna be like impossible for Copilot to understand all the backgrounds and histories behind that, right? And that's why grounding is very important. So I want to show you the most, I'll say, precise way to ground our information, which is by attaching a file directly to the chat. Right. So how you trigger this is very simple. All we need to do is drag and drop the file in the Copilot chat, which we will try that later on. Or we can upload it to the chat, and then no additional setup is needed. There's no specific syntax. We don't need to know anything about code. Everything is done, right? And once we did that, Copilot will change how it answers, right? So even before the answer is being generated, it will try to understand the content inside of the documents that we provide, right? So that one single file or the files will become the source of the truth for the following conversations. So that is grounding. And that's why we call it the laser focus advantage, right? So we are doing this by locking the Copilot's attention to the exact data set that we're referring to, which can largely reduce the risk of AI hallucination. And the results or the answers that we got straight from the chat will also be more accurate, right? It largely reduces the risk of um, like AI pretending to be a human and generating something that we never asked for, right? So, and any questions so far? Does it make sense for you?
Hey, Shirley.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I got a quick question. So when you say that the documents that we attach, if they're being laser focused on those specific sources, is there a certain type of document which is more, it's easier to read or easier to pull information from, like a Word document versus a PDF, things of that nature?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will say Copilot does a pretty good job in terms of understanding the structures as well as the data set. So if it's an Excel file, then it will just refer the informations column by column by the column header. If it's a like a text information, then it doesn't matter whether it's a PDF or Word, it will understand better by either the headings or the gaps between the paragraphs. So I wouldn't say PDF is really it is a huge advantage versus Word document. They'll be treated the same as the text message. And there are certain types of documents, let's say like a audio or video, right? Then it will highly depend on the quality of the raw file. So if the video has really bad resolutions, and then Copilot might not be able to understand the information to fully understand what is going on. Hope that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other
So that's an
questions?
interesting question. Yeah, I'm just curious then I hadn't really thought about the video part of it. So if we were to drag and drop just a video of a meeting, it would be not only listening to the words, but looking at whatever graphics and PowerPoint were there, and it would be able to pull information from that as well.
Yes, that would be correct. Yeah,
Okay.
pretty powerful, right? Okay. All right. So now moving on to the next question. How is generative AI or Copilot different from a general or traditional search like Google search? Right. So it is very naturally that people will just use generative AI tools as a search engine because that's just how we've been using it for decades, right? But fundamentally, they are completely different tools. So let me show you the difference. So when it comes to traditional search, what we usually do is we type in the keywords and then click on the search button, and it will return us a list of links based on the level of relevancy, right? And then it will still be our job, the human's job, to really clicking into those links and then read the contents, and we're going to manually filtering out and pieces all those information together, right? So a lot of manual work are still required, right? So search engine can help us to find the information, but we still need to do all the synthesis work. But on the other hand, when it comes to Copilot or any generative AI tools, they don't just search. They create and simulate new content. And that new content is going to be generated based on the patterns in their training data for the language model, right? So they are very good at understanding the natural language, and that's why they tend to have a very like a good advantage in terms of having human-like conversations. And that is kind of what makes them so powerful and useful in professional tasks, right? So you can consider uh, search engine like Google as a librarian and Copilot as a researcher. So librarian is like you have a specific topic that you want to search, or if you have a book that you want to find, you go to librarian and they will point at you like which aisle or which book that you should be looking for. But we still need to go there and take out the book and read ourselves, right? But Copilot, it works as a researcher. So it not only pointing to the book, it will go to the shelf, take out the book, read it for us, and then summarize all the essential points for us. And that's pretty nice, right? So Google generates, I will say not Google, search engine retrieves, but Copilot will generate, right? So I just have a quick example to show you. So when it comes to search engine, if we want to write a grant report, we're probably just going to type how to write a grant report, right? And then this is probably the result that we will see, a list of websites we need to go into, and then highlight all those tips, and we can kind of like pieces all this information together and come up with our own report. But when it comes to Copilot, um, we usually will give it a more detailed prompt, right? We specifying the role, uh, and also the structures that we're looking for, and also we even ask for like specific details, like 4 discussion points, and then 3 questions to surface any challenges, and a short list of next step, right? With all those detailed information plugged in, and this is the results that we will get, right? So this is one of the results that I generated from my previous test. So I would say in total, it took me about like 2 seconds after I hit the submit button to get those, I would say, pretty polished templates to get started with, right? Of course, some fine tunings might need to involve based on your specific needs, but this will be a pretty nice start point for us to start building our report, right? So I would say that's pretty nice. So the big takeaway here is try not to use any generative AI tools the same way that you use search engine. So in other words, try not to Googleize your AI tools. But I also have to mention that technically there is no right or wrong way for using generative AI tools, right? So you can still treat it as a search engine. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you are just starting to explore a field, a topic, and you don't have any specific purpose in mind. Feel free to just ask broad questions just so that we're not scoping the result in a particular field. That's completely fine. And the techniques or the guidance that I share with you in this class is gonna help you when you have a particular purpose or particular goal in mind. So this can help us to reach that goal way faster than just asking a very broad question. Hope that makes sense. Okay, and nobody's gonna penalize you or like punish you for just ask a simple question in Copilot. So don't worry about it. All right. So here's 2 more examples. And so we can say instead of asking how to write project summary, right? We cannot build up the question a little bit more and turn that into a prompt. We can say act as a program manager, write a 150 word project summary for a grant funded initiative at our organization, including the problem, key activities, and expected impacts, right? And then instead of just asking for like marketing campaign ideas, and we're gonna have more, let's see, I don't think this is the marketing campaign idea. Yeah, so this is about like following a grant that's behind the spending schedule. Yeah, my apologies, I need to update this one here. Yeah, but now you see that we provide details about what we're expecting for, what background informations we have, right, acting as a particular role. All those informations that we put in will help us to get a more precise result. Okay. And I think going back to the question that Michael had before, so can we import different types of files, right? So I mentioned there are technically no restrictions on the type of files that we import, and that is because all the generative AI tools, I would say on the market right now, I think most of them are multi-model AI tools, which means they accept inputs in text format, like when we're typing in the chat, or they accept images, audios, and videos, right? And I do want to add one more thing in terms of the audio. So let's say if you upload the meeting recordings to Copilot, and then first thing, it depends on the recording quality, right? And then second, it also depends on how we recorded the meeting, right? If everybody is joining online, everybody has their own microphone, own name tagged to their talking, then it's going to be easier for Copilot to understand who said what, right? Otherwise, if everybody sit in the same meeting room, we just have one, like maybe a recorder in the middle of the desk, and everybody's just talking over one another, especially when multiple people talking at the same time. And let's say like three females or three males, they talk at the same time, their voice can be very similar to one another. And that will just add a little bit difficulties for Copilot to differentiate who said what, right? So yeah, so those are the multimodal AI models. And not only the inputs can be multimodal, but the outputs can also be multimodal, so that we can really receive a rich, diverse output from Copilot as well. So we can use prompt to create images, use prompt to generate Word documents, use prompt to even create audios or even videos, right? And there might be some limitations depending on what license that you have, but those are the things that we technically can do in Copilot chat. Okay. All right. And then any questions so far?
Hi, Shirley. I
Yeah,
had a
just
quick question. The prompts before that you were sharing, where you were saying act as a project manager and act as a et cetera, is that the same thing as creating an agent? Is there any connection to that?
Great question. So act as a specific role is not necessarily an agent. An agent is kind of like a assistant that we built that can help us to produce or perform a specific type of tasks, which we'll cover towards later. But the act is more about assigning a persona to the Copilot in the particular chat. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I will also talk a little bit more when it comes to the prompting techniques. Any other question? Okay. And you can also type your questions in the chat if you don't want to like just stop me or just want to keep the flow going, right? No worries. All right. Okay, so before we dive in a little bit further, let's talk about the ethics a little bit because it's pretty important, right? So first thing first, always review the AI output. I do believe many of you have already been doing that a lot, right? So it is completely fine. We treat it as a first draft, but we never just send out whatever AI generated and just directly use them without any review, without human judgments involved, right? So try not to do that. I would say many cases will be fine, but it only take one strike to really create a huge problem, right? Always review it. And then second, be transparent when the content is AI generated or AI assisted, right? So we can just put maybe like a quick note after you got an image generated from Copilot. We can have a little note like this is generated by AI, or we can say this summary is generated by Copilot and reviewed by human or something like that, just to keep others aware that AI has been utilized throughout the process. And then the third point is never put any sensitive data or confidential data into prompt, right? So even though with the M365 Copilot license, it is confirmed by Microsoft that whatever we uploaded to Copilot Chat is going to be stay within the organization's umbrella and will not be used to train the public large language model. But just like sometimes you would not or you would never share certain files online, then if that's something that you usually do, then do not share that to Microsoft as well. Because we always say that there are likelihood that the service will be hacked or attacked, right? So if you don't want anybody outside of the organization to access that file, then it might not be it might not be like a go-to solution to just upload everything to Copilot Chat. And yeah, and next one is humans are always going to be in control. So we are still accountable for the outcomes, right? So Copilot can assist us with brainstorming, thinking, troubleshooting, but it will still be the final call that the final call still be made by a person, right? It's a human that needs to sign on a paper. So if anything goes south, we're not gonna sentence like Copilot 20 years in jail, right? So just kidding. All right. So if you ever feel uncertain about should I ask this question or can I upload this file to Copilot Chat, always double check with your IT or compliance team, right? Making sure that you always follow the company's AI policy. I know that different company might have, or even different departments might have different guidance that need to follow depending on like what data that you are processing. So be aware of that. Okay. Does that aligns with your expectations when it comes to using Copilot? Any questions, comments? Okay. All right. So now let's diving into the prompting, right? So first, I'm going to show you a scenario. So imagine you're a chef. You're a chef at a restaurant, right? And your managers communicate with you in those two ways. The first one is make dinner for tomorrow's events, right? And the second style will be make a gluten-free organic Italian seafood pasta for a party of 15 by 7 p.m. tomorrow and stay within a budget of $150. Oh, $500. My bad. So which one or which style do you prefer? One or two?
The more specific one, number two.
Number two, more specific one. Yeah,
Yeah.
agree. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And why is that? Why
Sets
specific one is better?
expectations.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, sets expectations. That's good.
You know the outcome, it's specifically, you're specifically providing an outcome of what you're looking for, time,
Mhm.
and it's much more inclusive.
Yeah, that's great. And Robin also says more info is better. Yeah,
Mhm.
I completely agree with you. And Peyton says provide a more specific guideline to meet expectations. Yeah, that's correct. I agree. But sometimes I do get comments like, I actually prefer the first one better because second one sounds like a little micromanagement. So depending on your preference, right? But when it comes to communicating with generative AI, I would say always vote for the second one, right? Because it provides more details. The more detail means we are kind of like constrain the result to be in the same path that aligns with our expectation, right? Okay, so that is prompting, right? So when I ask Copilot this question, what is prompting? And this is the result that I got. So according to Copilot, prompting is an act of giving AI system a clear instruction, question, or description to generate a specific response or output, right? So in short, prompting is about how we talk to AI so that we can guide what it creates and explains or analyze, right? Hope that makes sense. So when it comes to prompting language versus the traditional language, they're actually quite different. So the traditional language on the left side is like the human language, right? So we usually focus on the vocabularies, the syntax, like perfect grammar, that's what we're looking for. And also we understand the context, right? So our experience, like our understanding, our background with the specific topic will help us to fill in the context part. And also we care about like the tone, the nuance, and role playing, right? So the way that we talk is gonna be completely different, or hopefully completely different, when we are, let's say, in the executive meetings versus when we're talking to our kids or to our friends, right? And then we also learned the idioms and the slangs. The same word might mean completely different things in different cultures, right? So those are things that we care about when we're speaking human language. But when it comes to AI language, things are a little bit different. So instead of looking for perfect grammar, AI responds better to clear keywords, phrases, and clean structured. So if we have a structured instruction, that's going to be good, right? And it doesn't really care much about grammars and spellings, so it is completely fine, even though I do not like promote this, but it is okay. So if you have a typo, or if you just like really want to type things out before it like skip away from your mind, it's fine. Don't need to worry too much about that. And because AI doesn't automatically know what we want, so we need to provide the context and constraints, right? So that we can help it to stay on track. And also, okay. And also refinement and iterations is very important, which means that we often adjust the prompt to guide it. It's kind of like the same way how we clarify instructions with our colleagues, right? Just because like AI doesn't read our mind, as long as we don't type it down, it have zero access to what we're thinking right now, right? And the next is assigning a persona. Because AI cannot do a role playing like how human does. So we need to assign a persona. That's the part like act as a specific role, right? And that persona can not only be ourselves, like our own role, it can also be someone that we are presenting to, right? So let's say I complete this Excel analysis, and I'm gonna let's say almost having Copilot to play the devil's ad, and let's say act as the board member. This is the information that I prepared for this presentation. Share with me what are the risks that I overlooked, or is there any points that should be highlighted but I missed that, right? So it can help us to troubleshoot, to identify any missing points as well. And then just like learning idioms and slangs, prompting technique is very important. That's what it helps us to get better output, right? So one thing I do really want to show you, and I do suggest you to practice over and over, is to reach out to Copilot to refine your prompting techniques. Right, so let's try this. I'm gonna copy and paste this prompt in the chat so you don't have to type everything here. 1 second. So we're saying like I am, and then you can insert your role at this institute. I just started to learn how to use Copilot. Can you provide the top 10 prompts for the specific role using Copilot for a wide range of cases in this particular industry? And I do want you to, let's open up the Copilot app, right? You can just copy and paste the prompts in the chat, and then customize it to it actually fits in your current role. It can be work related, or if you want it to be creative, it can be like, I am a private chef at certain institute. Feel free to play around with that. Was there a question?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So let's do 3 minutes on this. I'll start a timer, but just for reference purpose. And if you finish early, what I also want you to try is out of the 10 prompts that Copilot generate initially, try to copy and paste, or let's say try to use those prompts and see if it really makes sense. And we're going to discuss about that after 2.5 minutes.
So Shirley, I just want to make sure I understood. I got some great prompts here, was reading through them. Did you say I should do something with them once they are created, or
Yes, so you can copy some of the prompts and then sit back into the chat and see if they actually make sense.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So we're basically asking Copilot, what are the prompts that can be really helpful for my role? Right? And meanwhile, I just dropped a zip folder in the chat. So it contains some of the materials that we will be using when it comes to hands-on exercises. So no rush, but when you have a chance, go ahead and download that. All right, 3 minutes flies. How's everyone doing? Do you
I
all,
got some great stuff.
okay, great. Eric, would you like to share with us? You can share your screen if you prefer.
I'll just read if that's all right. But I
Yeah.
just asked it. I'm an IT professional at Volunteer, Florida, just starting to learn how to use Copilot. Give me some top 10 prompts for IT, wide range of use cases in IT. So it talked about strategy, roadmap development. The second one was cybersecurity. So act as a cybersecurity expert, generate a risk assessment, and then include likely threats, vulnerabilities. So I actually chose that one and put it back into Copilot and got a cybersecurity, of course, is on everybody's mind, and it's something we've spent a lot of time on in the past couple of years, developing new policies and doing trainings and everything. So interesting to see what Copilot thinks are likely threats and things we might have overlooked or things we need to work on. Um, yeah, so I got some interesting stuff here and budgeting, project stuff, staff development. Um, it's very interesting to see what it thinks and how we might be able to use it.
That's great. That's great. Any others I'd like to share?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kat. You can go. I've already shared, so you can go.
No, go for it.
All right. Well, I typed in grant manager at first, and it pulled up like grant proposal developer. So, writing grants, which is a little different than, or a little different. It's different than what we do. We review kind of the post-award activities for the grant. And so I was able to refine it by putting federal/state grant manager, focused in on kind of specific task, and it definitely put out exactly, um, pretty much exactly what we do. And I think it's really cool because it's first one was it can act as a grant manager. So review the following subrecipient application and identify, does the application align with grant objectives, feasibility of proposed activities, risk or inconsistencies, missing information, compliance concerns with CF2 CFR 200. I mean, that's right on.
Um,
That's pretty good.
can I
Yeah,
build on that one?
Mhm.
of course.
So I went a little bit deeper and said, I'm a director and asked it about prompts for monitoring using AmeriCorps State and National. And so it specifically gave me great prompts really related to AmeriCorps, like analyze a data set on drawdowns match member retention. It gave me a good one on act as an AmeriCorps grant monitor, review these uploaded documents for compliance gaps. So
Mhm.
all kinds of things. It was really cool.
That's awesome. So it seems like everybody's smiling. So I guess the results are pretty good, or at least some of the prompts that you can use that in the future, maybe. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I would actually suggest you to constantly go back and ask Copilot. And many times, what we do is we will ask questions, follow up, and iterate multiple times, and finally get the result that we want, right? So at that time, what I will suggest you to ask one additional questions. It will say that, oh, this is the result that I'm expecting for. Can you give me some suggestions about if I start this over? What do I need to improve in my initial prompt, or what is the suggested prompt that you will I will say what is the suggested prompts that you will provide to get this type of result, right? So that way we're communicating both ways. So we're learning from Copilot, and Copilot is learning from us as well. All right. So now that will bring us to the four pillars, which is the foundation of strong prompts. And we touched base on the role multiple times already, right? So basically, that is tell Copilot who it is, right? So you can say act as a program manager at a nonprofit that funds community organizations, right? So by identifying the role, it can help us to set up the tone and also forcing Copilot to talk in or utilize a specific, let's say, set of words or like say technical words or descriptions. Do you want it to be like more professional or things like that? By assigning the role, we're implying certain informations to that already. And then next we have the context, which is give the background and the intention behind our request, right? So why do we want this? So basically, so you can say like we're preparing for our quarterly grantee review, right? So that is a context, right? And it's going to be completely different versus we are preparing for our, let's say, daily stand-up meeting, right? And then next will be the task. Task is what exactly do we want Copilot to do, right? So we need to be pretty specific on the task. So either summarize or draft, or we polish a paragraph, right? Or create a chart, or let's say calculating in Excel, right? So those are all the things that we can ask Copilot to do. And then last, which is set up constraints, right? Which is to set clear boundaries on the format, the length, the tone, and the scope, right? So if we're asking for an answer, do we always prefer bullet points versus paragraph versus table style, right? And even it's just for one paragraph, I mean, 150 words is a one paragraph versus maybe 400 words is also a paragraph, right? Is there any text limitations that we were looking for the result? And when we include all those four pillars into our prompt, you'll see a dramatic improvement in the quality of the app outputs. So I will say it is not a must-have, but the more you plug in, the better the results will be. Okay, so here is a quick example. So all three prompts, I will say there is nothing wrong with it. They're all good prompts, but how can we do from okay or good to better prompts to the best prompt, right? So for the first one, we can see write an email to grantee about a checking meeting, right? So I'm also gonna copy and paste this prompts in the chat. We can actually try it together. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this one in Copilot. And you'll notice that this is a very simple prompt. It includes the task, which is write an email, right? But we do not provide any context or there's no specific directions that we want. So we'll see how the results will generate. Okay. So it's a quarterly check meeting, reaching out to schedule during this meeting we want to cover, and that might not necessarily be true, right? So what it does is based on Copilot's language model that it was trained on, when we using the keywords like professional emails or grantees about checking meetings, those are the tokens that it will look into, right? So it will search inside of the language model and say, oh, those are the bullet points or the topics that people usually cover when it comes to grantee checking meetings, right? Not very specific, but to be honest, it's not a horrible result, right? So now let's take a look at the better option. So it will be, I am a program manager at a nonprofit that funds community organization. Write an email to grantees to schedule a quarterly check-in meetings. So we are adding the roles as well as the context, right? So let's try it here. I'm also going to share that in the prompt. We can use the same chat.
As it's thinking about that, I'm just curious. When I typed in that first prompt, it came out differently than what you typed in. You're going to speak to why that's happening. I imagine for
Exactly.
all of these. Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, that's actually my next slide. So right on point. Okay, so this is the second one that I got, right? So let's see, quarterly checking meetings, conversation, great opportunity align, and then current spending alignment. Let's see. Well, still pretty, I would say close to what we originally have, but now we are adding the roles and the context to it. We'll say provide a little bit more details than what we initially got. And now we can try the third one, which is keep whatever we already have, but we are adding a little bit more information. So we're adding the constraints and expectation. So I can say include a friendly opening, 3 agenda items covering progress and spending, 2 proposed time slots, and a clear call to action, and then present it in a short professional email with a subject line. 1 second. I'll copy and share in the chat. Here we go. So I think it's pretty nice, right? Also propose a time, and then because we don't have a specific time provided in the initial prompts, so it add a placeholder for us. How do you feel about the results you got? You see the difference depending on like the level of details that we provide to the prompt? Okay, see noddings. It's good. All right. Okay, so going on with Eric's question earlier, right? Why don't we all have the same answer, right? So we're using exactly the same prompt if you're just copy and pasting, right? And to be honest, even if I use the same prompt multiple times, very likely I got different one as well. Okay. Also, Kate said my responses are very friendly, and I wonder if they're right like me. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, Copilot actually learn from your past behavior. Okay, so why it don't give us the same answer, right? And that's because of the model they will actually be using, right? So for other traditional softwares or when we are coding, it's actually a deterministic model, which means if we have same input, we're always gonna get the same output, right? So just like 1 + 1 = 2, we have fixed rows, and things are like a linear equation, right? Like when we're using calculations. But when it comes to generative AI, it's more a probabilistic model, which means remember the statistic slides that we were talking about, like 80% is this answer, 4% is the other one, 10% is C, things like that. So because it's a probability-based prediction, the same output might not always generating the same input might not always generating the same output. So you can say if it's A, you can say 80% of the time it's going to show Y, and then 20% of the time it's going to show Z. Then it is likely, right, depending on the knowledge that your Copilot learned from you. Sometimes it will show you Z as an answer, right? Other times you will see Y. So maybe it's not 80-20. Maybe it's like 51 versus 49, right? They're all pretty popular options. So they will constantly changing between the options just so that it makes a more human-like conversation, right? And many times I found that using the same prompt, even though the wordings or the structure might be different, sometimes I got a table, other people get bullet points, but the overall structure or the high level information should be pretty much the same. Okay.
So you said it was learning, if Kat's worked in Copilot for a while, it's starting to learn how she speaks and writes. Um, I know I've read online and just people talk about using please and thank you and how we interact with the Copilot. Are you going to speak to that, or do you recommend not doing that? I've heard it's wasteful. I don't know.
So I would say not necessarily. I wouldn't say it's wasteful, but if that's just how you type, how you talk, there is no need to like force yourself to change another way of talking or typing. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about how we can customize the results we got from Copilot Chat so that you don't always need to provide the context information over and over again. Yeah, or if you have a specific style that you prefer as the outcome, we can say that clear upfront. All right. So a quick summary, role plus context plus task plus the format and optional example. I will talk a little bit more about examples when it comes to advanced prompting techniques, but sometimes it will be a good idea to provide examples just so that kind of like a similar idea when we use Excel autofills, like Copilot learns from the pattern, and then it can generate the response based on the templates or the patterns that we provide. But it's optional. So with all the 4 pillars in place, we can generate a clear prompt. Okay, so that's the basic prompting techniques. Any question before we move into the advanced ones? Okay, if not, let's take a look at the advanced prompting techniques. So the first one I want to talk about is called the chain of thought prompting. And in fact, many generative AI platforms are now doing that by default. So what it does is we are encouraging the AI to reason the step-by-step process instead of jumping straight to an answer, right? So we can understand how it come up with that result so that we can actually call any mistakes or errors that happening throughout the process and kind of like redirect it to the correct path, right? So it's like asking generative AI to show the thinking process. And one prompt that we can use here, I will copy and paste in the chat. So the first one will be, how does a delay in one grantee spending typically affect the rest of our annual budget? Let's think through this step by step. So the keyword here is think step by step, right? So I will start a new chat. So if this is your first time using Copilot, by creating a new chat, you can go to the top left corner, click on the new chat, or you can go to the top right corner. You see kind of like the purplish blue icon with a rectangle square with almost like a pencil-like icon. Click on that, can also start a new chat. And then we're gonna paste this one here. And the
I think
reason
it
why
missed
oh, go
did
for
it
it.
maybe miss the first part of that prompt?
Oh, you're right. My bad. Let me try one more time. Here we go. And the reason why I'm starting a new chat is I don't want the previous history to interfere with my new topics, right? So even though Copilot can learn from your past behavior to kind of improve the response that it generates for the future, but it does not fetch information across chart when we're starting across chat when we're starting a new chat. So if you are kind of like having a conversation with Copilot with two separate topics, I will highly recommend you to start to chat so that it doesn't kind of like cross referencing the historical data. All right, so this is the result that I got. How does delay impact the rest of the annual budget, right? So annual budget does not immediately shrink, but spending pays fall behind, and delay activities often delay related expenses. The remaining months carry more pressure. Forecasts become less reliable and less updated. That makes sense. Other grantees or categories may be affected if allocation become necessary. Compliance and quality risks increase if spending is rushed later. Okay. And at the end, I also have a question to ask next table for me. So most likely what you have will be different from what I have. And I do have a question. Peyton, hope I got your name correct.
Yes, hi. So I just had a quick question. You had said that the Copilot, when you start a new chat feature, it's not going to remember your previous history, but isn't it if you're signed into the same account, it will across your chat features? I know I've used Copilot now for almost 2 years, and I may start an entirely new chat, and it will still reference things that I've talked about previously with it. So I just want to make sure that that is understood, that it learns from your previous behavior as long as you're logged into the same profile.
That's a great question. So, what you were mentioning about is more like a Copilot memory. So it recognizes your previous actions and maybe like topics that you always discuss about. So that becomes part of your profile or portfolio for yourself. So then next time when it generate information, it will automatically recall that, oh, you have those projects or those topics that you always talk about. Maybe you want the answers to be closer to those things. But what I mentioned earlier about not cross-checking the information in multiple chats, I was referring to like the specific details, like the analysis results, a particular number that I got from a chat is not going to be cross-referenced when I start a new chat. Hope that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yep. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So how do you feel about the result for the first prompt we tried? I found that pretty helpful because to be honest, I definitely know less about branding comparing to you. And I think it did a pretty good job explaining it step by step. So even I'm from a completely different field, I kind of feel like I got a better understanding about what is going on and why it might impact the future budget, right? And then the next one, we can try. Let's go back to the slides. It also works pretty good when it comes to math problems as well, right? So we can say if a grantee has this amount grant and spend this over the first 5 months, are they on track to spend it all within 12 months? And let's think step by step, right? So basically asking Copilot to calculate for us, right? And that's something that we can do as well. And if there is any specific model that you use to for forecasting, it will be a good idea. Otherwise, we're just using the linear model, I believe. Okay, so a quick answer up front, no, they're slightly behind, and then they're explaining why they come up with that conclusion. Okay. To show us step-by-step process, right? And I got a lot of comments like, really hope this is not how kids are doing their homework nowadays, but I'm pretty sure this is. But I would say, as long as it explains step by step instead of just throwing like no, they're behind. It's a learning process, right? It's a matter of how you utilize and help us to learn faster. Okay. Hope that makes sense. That is the chain of thought prompting. And then next we have the prompt chaining, which is pretty similar in terms of names, but they're completely different ones. Prompt chaining is us human. We are breaking a complex task or a large task into smaller pieces so that we can increase the accuracy of the output. Right. So if we ask Copilot to say like, let's write a grant proposal for like a 5-page grant proposal, it's very unlikely that we're gonna success in one try. So instead of just having it to write 5 pages for us at the beginning, maybe we can split things into smaller steps, right? We ask for an outline first, and then we go back into the outline to fill in section by section, and we can validate section by section, like say, before moving on to the next step. Hope that makes sense. It's the prompt chaining, right? So a quick example here is act as a project manager, create an outline for quarterly check-in meetings with one of our grantees. And then outlines created, explain each section into detailed agendas and talking points, key question to ask, and time allocations, right? So basically, we are building on the previous result. That's the prompt chaining. And I will say probably many of you have already do that. So if you don't get the final result that you like, we always ask follow-up questions, right? That is part of the prompt chaining. Okay. And another example for talk points, we can say list the top 3 risks that could prevent our grantees from spending their funds in time this fiscal year. And then after we identify the 3 risks, for each one, explain the potential impact, right? And then use all the points mentioned above, draft 3 concise talk points suitable for program direct presenting to a leadership, right? So we're building step by step. Okay, so that is prompt chaining. And then the next one we have is called zero shot or one shot prompting. So it's pretty easy to understand by the name, right? So zero shot means we're not providing any example. We're just asking Copilot to do throughout the using the basic prompts, right? So we can just like the prompts that we were talking about, act as a role, assign a task, and the expectations, right? One-shot prompting is by providing one single example to demonstrate the format that we want, the style that we prefer, also the structures that we want the end result to be, right? So we can say, here's an example of how I write a reminder email subject line, right? So example from a previous email. So you can say reminder column, Q2 progress report due Friday, June 30th. Please confirm receipt. Right, and now we wanted to create a similar one, but it's regarding the upcoming check-in cost next week. Right, so I will copy and paste this in the chat. So feel free to just copy and paste it over, but also feel free to make adjustments if you want. And here we go. I will say less than a second, right? So it's a reminder column, upcoming grantee check-in cost next week. Please confirm availabilities and receipt. Is it pretty nice? So this way, I mean, usually it might not actually take us a long time to come up with a subject, but like the efforts that we put into like picking all those words, making sure it logically makes sense and it's professional. And now with the help of Copilot, we just need to plug in some examples and without even thinking about it, we're turning our role from a content creator to a reviewer, right? Okay, and then next Going on with the one-shot prompting, we also have the few shots prompting. Based on the name, it's just providing a few examples, right? So a quick one over here. So I can say, here are some examples of how to describe a grant management concept in one sentence, and we provide 3 of them, and we wanted to do it for the carryovers. All right. So let's see. I'll copy and paste in the prompt, but I think I'll skip that for demo. You get the idea for the few shots prompting. And we can do something even a little bit more complex in the structure wise as well. So I'll show you this one here. Like write business update summaries or any project summaries, right? So we can say priority area, current status, response, and next steps, right? So we have everything in here. Let's try this together. I want you to go to the folder that I share with you. If you haven't got a chance to download it, please go and download the file. And so in this folder, the file that I want you to look for, sorry, 1 second. I have so many windows open up on my screen right now. So it will be the disaster response readiness. Okay, so what I want you to do is go to Copilot chat, start a new chat. Because the question we're asking is relevant to this particular file, right? So we're gonna do the grounding. So what I will do is drag and drop the file into the Copilot chat. So that's one way that we can do it, drag and drop. Or if you prefer to use the upload method, so we'll start inside of Copilot chat, click on the plus icon at the bottom left corner of the chat box, and then we can choose upload, right? And if you want to add any files, like for those who have access to your OneDrive or SharePoint, then you can choose to add work content, and then they will have access to every single file inside of your SharePoint and OneDrive. But if you have a local file, then I will suggest you to use the upload and then go to upload images and files, and it will navigate to a particular file you want to use it. But personally speaking, I usually just prefer to use drag and drop. But either way works. Okay. And after that, I'm going to copy and paste the prompts. Okay, I shared it in the chat. And you'll notice that when I paste it, it might be because of the formatting issues. I got some unrecognized characters inside of my prompts, but we don't need to worry too much about that. I can just click on submit, and Copilot will still be able to understand the structure that I'm looking for. And here you go. So I have the priority area, disaster response readiness, current status, response, and next step. Okay. And the good thing about it is it's always going to reference to the file that you get the information from. So even if we have multiple files as reference, we will know what those information, which specific file is coming from. Hope that makes sense. Okay. And those are the advanced prompting techniques. And just to show you a few more examples about effective prompts. The first one, let's take a look at here. It says write a short summary of this quarterly grant update. So I'll say it's pretty good in terms of clarity, right? So it defines the task, which is summarize, and it also defines the kind of like the context or the topics, which is for the quarterly grant update, right? And next we have specificity. Can see we have list 5 common challenges, that number 5, and also the focus area when spending their funds on time, right? Challenges for spending their funds on time. And also contextual appropriateness is very important. So when we see like a short message suitable for leadership briefing, explaining why timely grant reporting is important, we are providing that the business that contextual context, or like the organizational context, and also the intended audience, right, for leadership team. Okay. And on top of everything, I would say always experiment with your styles, right? Even with the same information, but if we're asking it in different ways, the results might also be different, right? You'll see style 1, 2, 3. They're all asking about why cross-functional collaboration is important for business execution, right? So the first one, it's in a more direct way. So you can say explain why this is important for successful business execution. And then the style 2, it has a little bit more conversational feeling. So you can say, can you walk me through why this is important? And keep it brief, right? And then the third style is very executive style. It shows like the highest level of professional. So it can say provide a concise, leadership-ready explanation highlighting the importance of cross-functional collaboration for achieving business goals. Right. So depending on your tone, your way of describing the questions, the result will be different as well. So feel free to play around with that. If one style doesn't work, experiment with maybe another one. Try a different tone, like if you're being harsh with your Copilot, sometimes it might not be happy. No, just kidding. But feel free to play around with different styles. All right, so in summary, those are the advanced prompting techniques. Any question about them? Okay, so I would say iteration is very important, right? So user expectation and models output, very likely we're just gonna be very far away from one another, especially if just starting using a new platform, which to be honest, don't enjoy it. I still go back to my ChatGPT from time to time, just because I've been using that for multiple years, ever since it's launched. So I think it's like it knows me the best. Now I can just use like really bad prompts, but still got the results that I like. I don't need to add too much informations or detailed informations in my prompt, so it gets my style. So I will say the more that you chatting with your Copilot, the better it learns from your behavior, and more likely it will get you to your goal faster along the way. So hopefully this thought is where you will achieve in the near future. The sooner the better. Okay. So now let's actually play around with our Copilot chat. So what I want you to do is go ahead and open up your Copilot chat. And now making sure that it's the one that says M365, right? Sometimes I have people have the regular Copilot chat and the M365 Copilot chat. It's the M365 that is underneath your business license and have the umbrella protection. Okay. So once we're here, at the top right corner, let me know if you see a green shield, like a very small icon. Give me a thumbs up if you see that. Okay, I see noddings. Great. So that means we are underneath the enterprise data protection. Okay, always validate that before you upload any information, making sure that you are on the correct Copilot. Okay, and then underneath it, or on the left side of the green shield, let's take a look at the auto dropdown. Right, you might see auto option, and that auto actually represents the different mode that we can select. Right, so if you are using the basic license, and this is probably what you will see. We have 3 options. So auto, quick response, and think deeper. Let me know if that's what you see. Okay, great. So those are the thinking mode, right? Which means how long it generally takes to respond. So auto means we are letting Copilot to make decision for us. So Copilot will pick the correct or the more proper mode for us depending on the type of questions that we're asking, right? And then second, we have the quick response, which is exactly how it sounds like, quick, right? Fast answers. So it answer, the answers will not be like very overthinking. So it's pretty good for simple and quick questions. Okay. And then the third model is the think deeper. This is when we can use if we want Copilot to like really work through something like a complex problem or detailed analysis. This generally will take longer, but the answer is going to be more comprehensive or more thorough. Hope that makes sense. But I would say for day-to-day use, I usually just keep it on for auto unless I'm really not happy about the level of details that it provides, and then I will manually switch it to Deep Thinker. Right? And also, Deep Thinker, it does cost more usage for your Copilot. Okay, and then in terms of the model, you probably will have GPT by default, right? Yeah. So for all the basic license, currently we have GPT, which is created by OpenAI, and Microsoft currently don't have its own language model, but I also saw a news online recently. They are working on their language models, and they might utilize that in Copilot in the future. We don't have a specific date just yet. So right now they're using the um, GPT model, and for the paid license, they're using the GPT and the Opus model, which is the same language model that Claude use. Okay, so that's what we have. And now I want you to take a look at, let's see. Let's take a look at the top right corner. Let me know if you see the three dots. If you click on it, you'll find a settings. So click on the settings. All right. So from here, so what I want you to do is to customize our chat response, right? So in order to customize that, we're going to go to the personalization from the left side menu. Okay. And this might be something that you'll see. This one here. Custom instruction, work profile, and saved memories, like three options, right? And they're constantly making updates nowadays. And now I think for the premium license at the chat history, and previously we only had the custom instruction and saved memories two option, and that was like 1 month ago. So the interface dynamically changed. So I'll say even though we have the recording, right? But who knows? Maybe next week they change everything for the user interface. And that actually happened to me before. So like one day before my trainings, I had to update all of my screenshots on my slides. So they're just making things a little bit complicated. So if you see things on my screen that might be a little bit different on your screen, that is completely normal. First thing, they might rolling out certain features gradually. So even within your same company, people might have different access to certain feature just because that's how Microsoft is doing the beta test. And other possibilities by different IT settings. So maybe certain feature is blocked for a certain department or certain group just for data security purpose. So yeah, so things can be different. I guess we just have to be like flexible about that. So now let's take a look at the custom instruction part. So if we have that turned on, we can actually edit our instructions. So I will show you a quick slides, and this is actually where we tell Copilot who we are and what do we want to have Copilot to know a little bit more about our styles, right? So this is one of the previous instructions that I put in my Copilot. So I said I am a information design consultant based in Boston, Massachusetts. I care about making the learners comfortable and confident. So my goal is always to simplify complexity without losing the accuracy, right? So I also specify when it comes to email draft, those are the things that I want you to follow. But when it comes to summarization contents, like highlight key decisions, using bullet points, takeaways so that it's very easy to scan, so on and so on, right? And also says focusing on internal sources or organizational context when it's available, right? And never use emoji, but if you're really like an emoji user, you can also add in here like use emoji at the end of every single sentence. That's something that you can do, and Copilot will follow, to be honest. And then down below, we got some commonly used or suggested options. Like we can just click on those plus icons and have that added to our instruction. And if you don't like this batch of selection, we can click on the refresh button to flip to the next page. But I think they have limited options here. So what I want you to do here is to spend, let's say, a couple of minutes to try to build your custom instruction. And just so you know, this doesn't have to be like very detailed level like what I'm having here. You can just type in a few sentences like always remember my manager name is Jennifer, and then I am, let's say, a grand like a program manager, and when I write emails, always start with hi or things like that. So you will actually learn it. So I'll give you about 3 minutes to work on your instruction. So as you're working on it, I'm just gonna talk through. I got a few bullet points here. I can say like I live in Boston, but I work remotely from May to July in Spain. So with that being in mind, if I ever like wanted to have Copilot, let's say schedule a meeting with me, it will keep in mind that from May to July I'm actually in Spain. So it's gonna be blending through in all the results that I generate for me. And I also said my manager name is Jennifer. So next time when I say like help me to draft an email to my manager, then I don't need to say Jennifer's name over and over. So it will start with hi Jennifer instead of just hi manager name placeholder. Right? And it will summarize large documents using bullet points so that I'm not gonna get multiple paragraphs in terms of the result. Right? Okay. So once we have that, we can either save our instruction or, well, if you're still working on that, take your time. And another thing I do want to share with you that we can actually ask Copilot to help us refine the instructions as well, because Copilot know what it works or what it talks the best to Copilot, right? So what I will usually do is I will just copy or cut, right? And then go back to my chat say the above points are what I want to add as the customized instructions. And say, help me to polish it and suggest any missing points. So maybe there's something that we didn't think of, but could be very helpful for custom instructions. Okay, so it refines it. Okay, pretty good. And then you'll suggest additions, like what are the tone and styles that I usually prefer, structures and clarity, and then accuracies and verification, communication preferences. Then if I combine everything, it actually create a finalized version. So I can just copy and paste, right? Or I can make some adjustments before I actually save it. How do you feel so far? Any questions? Good. Okay. So I'm gonna have you go back to the settings and personalizations page again. And another place where we can access the setting window is by going to the bottom left corner, where you also see the three dots. And we can click there and then go to settings. It will bring us to the exact same window. And then personalization. And then next one we can talk about is called the work profile. We can click into view work data. So it doesn't actually reveal a lot of information in here, but basically what it tells is that Copilot understands our role inside of the organization. So whatever information we have in Microsoft 365, like which department we're coming from, what role we're currently at, it has access to those information. So we don't have to repeatedly telling Copilot, I am which role, right? But I would suggest you to maybe like, especially if you recently got promoted, I would suggest you go to the 365 profile just to making sure that everything is being updated and aligned with your current role. Kate, question or Kat?
Does that mean like the organizational profile, I mean, or the profile in 365, like my email, like would it know like how I email? Would it not just know my role at the organization, but like my tone, my documents, things like that?
Yes, technically yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And is that the case even though it prompts me to sign in? I guess I'm already signed in because I'm signed into Copilot. It's all in the same system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Thanks.
that's right. And based on the license that you have, so if you have the basic license when it comes to working inside of Outlook, it might not have the access to a particular email, but it knows your writing style in that way because behind the scene, it has access to like whatever you have access to, basically. So it understands who you are. But it will still be a good idea to assign a particular role in your prompt if you're looking for things specifically. Okay, and then going on with that, we also have the saved memories, right? So if you click on saved memories, you'll see I have two here. If you've been using Copilot for a while, most likely you'll see a few memories being stored here. But if you're pretty new to it, you might don't see anything here. That's completely fine. So basically, what saved memory does is to bring the gaps between our initial customized instruction to what we are currently at. Right, so there might be some points that we're missing, we didn't put in the instruction. So as we have the conversation with Copilot, it will kind of like store the memories in here so that it will also be utilized. So that's why I think one of you says that it was the replies, the emails in the reply, was it Kate? Sorry, I might got your name wrong. Yeah, so that's because it had access to all your past histories. If you always ask Copilot in a very polite way, like please, or can you please help me? Thank you. And then it will save that. So it'll say, I'm just going to use Maya as example. So it's like, oh, Shirley's always been polite with Copilot, or Shirley always want to ask, say thank you at the end of the email or things like that. So you will save in here. So technically, the saved memory is what generated by Copilot, not by us, right? So it's automatically being stored here. So there might be some delays. So after you using, let's say 2 or 3 months, you'll mostly like to see some memories are here. If you're just using it for 2 days, without a particular pattern in your chat, Copilot might not be able to extract any memories from your conversation. So even though technically it's generated by Copilot, but we can nudge Copilot to store the memories that we wanted to save. So I'm going to close out this window for a second. I'll start a new chat. And the keywords that we can use is remember, right? So I can say, remember my manager is Jennifer, right? But it could be anything that you want Copilot to remember. And when I hit enter, give it a couple seconds. And what you will likely to see is to have the memory updated message right underneath your initial prompt. Yeah, I see noddings. Let me know if you do not see that. Okay, all right. And then when you hover over to that memory updated, we'll get to go to the manage memories. So we can click here. And now you'll see user's manager is Jennifer. It's now being saved, right? And if we want to remove any memories that's being stored here, we can either just click on the trash can icon to remove that, or we can remove that through Copilot chat as well. So I'm going to go back to the same chat and I'll say, forget what I want you to memorize just now. Or I can say, forgot my manager name is Jennifer. It's just because there's nothing in between, so it should work. Okay, so it says, I forgot that I won't retain your manager's name going forward, right? But I don't get the memory update anymore, but I'll go back to the manage memories. It's still here. I'm gonna say, I forget my manager's name is Jennifer. Okay, let me go back to the settings. It's still there. Anyone had a success? Nobody? Okay.
I didn't
So,
delete any memories, but I was able to add some memories. I get the idea. I'm sure it'll update, before too
yeah.
long. Yeah.
Okay, so if this one doesn't work for you, like for deleting it, we can always go to the saved memories and then manually delete that by clicking on the trash can here. Or there might be some delay. If I refresh it later on, this might be removed. Okay. And I will suggest you to check on those memories maybe on a quarterly basis or like every 6 months, just because it delays, right? So we can remove any unwanted memories or it doesn't add value to our response. Okay. And let's see. Next thing, I do want to talk about is, let me see. Okay, so I'll go back to that a little bit later. Oh, actually, let me show you right now. So I'm gonna navigate to the previous chat. Doesn't matter which one, any chat that you like. And then let's say if I create a prompt that I really, really like, and the output is pretty consistent. So I want to use that over and over again inside of my Copilot, right? So there are multiple ways that we can save a prompt. So the first one is by hovering over to a prompt and you will see some icons shows up either at the top button or the top right or the bottom right, depending on where you are. And then once you hover over to those, there should be a save prompt option. Should be the second one from the right. Let me know if you see that. Save prompt. Okay, and once you see that, let's click it. So it's gonna create a title, right? And then save the prompt itself. And when we click on the save, it's going to be stored in our prompt library or prompt gallery. At the top, you'll see a confirmation, and then we can click view in prompt gallery. And this is the one that we just saved, right? So we can ask or we can use that in the future conversations. So if I start a new chat, I can click on the three dots underneath the chat box. This will bring us to the prompt gallery. We have some pre-designed prompts that Microsoft created for us, or we can go to your prompts or our prompts, right? So we can select the prompt and it will automatically type everything in the chat. So we don't have to retype over and over again. But I would say, so for now, the prompt gallery can be accessed at the beginning of the chat, right? So let's say if I already asked a question and now I want to use the prompts in the library, last time I checked, we are still not able to do that. Maybe they'll update it in the future. So I'll say the next method, what we can do is actually create a shared document, right? And I do suggest you to work on the prompt libraries as a team so that everybody can contribute. Whenever you find a good prompt, you can copy and paste that to the document so that other people can use it as well. So you can come up with your own structure, let's say different categories, like this is for data analysis, that is for document summarizing, and this is for, let's say, PowerPoint generating, right? So we can save the prompts and we can maybe, I do have some of my clients that they would group their teams on a quarterly basis. So they'll review the prompts all together and then update and explain what those prompts are due, and they'll get rid of all those unwanted prompts. So that's a good way to have everybody contributed to the prompts. And it can also be a good way to have new members for their onboarding process, right? So they don't have to like really starting from scratch. They will have something already polished and testified to use. Okay. All right. So now let's take a look at what Copilot Chat can do with the Excel, right? So I want you to go to the folder that I shared with you, and what we are going to do is to take a look at the, let me see, the sub-grantee spending tracker sample worksheet, this one here. Okay. So there are multiple locations where we can access Copilot Chat. So because of the M365 license, we can access Copilot Chat inside of Microsoft Excel as well. So once you click open the Excel, let me know if you see a Copilot icon at the bottom right corner. Let me know if you do not see that. If it's not at the bottom right corner, check the ribbon at the top underneath the Home tab. Give me a thumbs up if you see it. Okay. All right. Okay.
I generally see it when I go into a new document. I'm not seeing it now, so I'm not sure what that's about. But I do know that we'll be updating everybody's licenses after this meeting, so hopefully we'll all have a bit better access to it. But I'm not
Okay.
seeing it right now.
Okay, so let's try turn the autosave on. Sometimes that will fix the issue. And if that still doesn't work, that's completely fine. No need to worry about that. So for those who might not have Copilot icon in your file, what I will have you to do is open up your Copilot chat and then attach the file to the chat. And they work exactly the same. Okay, but I will demo inside of Excel file if you don't mind. Okay, so for those who have the Copilot icon, let's click on it and you'll notice a panel open up on the right side, right? And it looks pretty much like the regular Copilot chat window, right? And then right above the chat box, you might see allow editing, right? But I do want you to click on the allow editing and switch it to chat only mode for now. Okay. So we're switching over to the chat only mode. So basically what we're having here is the same Copilot chat that we used earlier, but inside of the Excel file. So the benefit of using the chat this way is that we don't need to attach the file anymore because the chat lives inside of the file. So it already understands the context of what data we have inside of the file. Hope that makes sense. And now what I want to do is have you to try this prompt. So I shared that in the chat. So we're going to have a quick summarize. So summarize the overall spending status across all grantees in a few bullet points. Okay. And for those who are working on the chat, you'll just upload the file and then use the exact same prompt. And I'll make it wider. So here we go. Like overall underspending trend, majority are on track, but with notable exceptions. I'm not going to read through all the details. And a significant number of behind grantees. In let's see, yeah, several organizations, particularly in emergency management and some disaster programs. Overspending concentrated in community grants, program level patterns, emergency management, so on and so on, right? And just so you know, like those are all fake data, so don't worry about it. And let me know, what do you think? Do you think it does a fair job, like summarizing the information in this Excel file? I will say yes. Alright, so I found this feature especially helpful when I'm about to head in a meeting in 5 minutes. And I just realized that I need to review a certain document and I have zero idea what is inside, right? So I can just either click and open the file and then type those questions in the chat and have Copilot organize it for me, or I can just throw the file in Copilot chat app, right? And without even click open the file, I can have a good understanding about what the key insights that I need to focus on before I go into the meeting, right? And next we can also try asking for a specific data related question. So I'll say, which grantees have spent less than 40% of their funds? Right, and I'm gonna have a result of a list, right? So I'll say that's pretty nice. I don't need to like apply the filters on my worksheet, especially working with a fairly large data set, right? Right now we only have a few of them. And it shows us the exact numbers. And it will give us a conclusion. Overall, 7 of them are below 40% spending threshold, and all of them are marked as behind, right? And what else we can do? So I'm gonna have Copilot to draft a short summary I could share with the leadership about who is behind. Right? So instead of a table, let's do a summary. Okay, and I will say those are pretty like ready to go executive summaries or like executive memos that we can use on the slides, right? Okay, so because it was a shared file, Excel opens it as read only if you, yeah. So if you see read only at the top, that you can save as to your own device and you'll be able to access that. Thank you, Peyton. All right, and this is what we usually do, is to ask for fact checks, for summarize by using Copilot chat inside of Excel. And on top of that, we can also ask for guiding us or learning through particular features in Excel, right? So we can say, I want to highlight the status that are that shows behind. That show behind in this workbook. So I let's see, highlight the status in red. Okay, copy and paste in the chat. So I'm a little worried because I do have the premium license, so it might just apply the conditional format to me directly, but I will try it anyway. So what it's supposed to do is Okay, here you go. This is what I want. So it suggests me step-by-step instructions about in order to achieve my goal, what can I do inside of Excel, right? And you'll see, yeah, so the second option is highlight the status column and then go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules and text that contains, and I type behind, right? So for those who are familiar with Excel, that's exactly how we do it, right? Where did it go? Text that contains, and I type behind. And here we go. Right? But for those who may be not very familiar with this particular feature, or they want to explore what they can do with the data analysis inside of Excel, so even though the chat version is not able to edit our contents directly inside of Excel, but it can guide us through step by step. Right? And since we are inside of Excel, I do want to just quickly show you if we are in the allow editing mode, which you might have access to, but with the basic license, the usage is very limited, usually just less than 10 prompts per day. But we can still try. So we can say highlight the column J or status column, right? For those that, for the cells that have behind in it, or have the status that shows behind. Excuse my English here, but I think you get the point. Feel free to polish the sentence a little bit. Yeah.
And so once we update our licensing so that everybody does have more than 10 prompts, it'll just start doing things rather than giving us directions on how to do it. Because I'm sure our
Yes.
Excel users know how to do this kind of stuff. It'll just do it for us. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly like what it sees on my screen here. So you
Mhm.
apply the conditional formatting to it. And then we get to choose whether we want to accept the changes or undo, which is just delete, right? Even if we click on done to accept the changes, and you'll see those are legit conditional formatting rules. They're not just updating the field color to it, right? And we can always undo, just like how we undo our regular steps, right? Okay, so that is Copilot in Excel for now. Any questions? Okay. If not, I'm going to have you to close this out. And next one, I do want to take a look at Copilot inside of the Word document. Okay, so a few slides for this. So Copilot for Word documents, it's pretty good for summarizing a long document that are open up, right? So we're again talking about the Copilot chat inside of the Word document, right? And then we can ask questions about the contents, similar to what we just did in Excel. And then we're getting feedbacks on the draft that we edit, like paraphrase or polish a specific paragraph, right? And we can also reformatting or rephrasing, right? And having Copilot teaching us about writing a report or things like that. Kind of having like a assistant editor by our side whenever we're drafting proposals or reports. Okay, so the one I want to talk about a little bit more is how we can draft document from scratch by using the Copilot chat inside of our file. So I will share with you the prompt, and then what I want you to do is just open up a blank Word document file. Doesn't matter which one. And just an empty file here. And then we're going to go to the bottom right corner, check the Copilot icon to open it up, the side panel. And I will copy and paste the prompts in the chat, but making sure that we are using the chat only mode for now. Right? So you can see draft a short page memo summarizing a grantee's spending status for a quarterly review, including sections for current spending, areas of concern, and recommendations, recommended next steps. So in chat mode, and I'll click on submit, and let's see how it does. All right. So even though it's not directly editing or creating the memos in our Word document, but it's actually generating everything we need inside of the Copilot chat, right? So current spending status, concern, recommended next step, and a conclusion, right? So what we can do if we currently have the basic license, we can just click on the copy response at the end of the result. We always have that copy option. So we can just click on copy and then go to our Word document in the same window, and then just Control V or Command V if you're a Mac user. And that's it, right? So you notice that between each section in the result, chat result, there is like a divider line shows up, but when we are copy and paste over, that line actually doesn't carry over, right? So within a few seconds, we have a pretty nice example or like a template that we can work from, right? So that is how we can create a document within seconds by using basic prompts, right? And since you are going to be updating your license, I want to show you how it looks like when you use the allow edit mode. I will use the exact same prompt. Let me copy and paste. And you don't have to follow me this year, but if you haven't reached your daily limits yet, feel free to try it as well. So I'll start a new chat and use the allow edit, copy and paste in the same prompt. And you'll see like a magical hand is typing in my Word document, right? It's doing all the typings for me. And the best part of that is it's utilizing different heading styles, right? So we can navigate to our documents from our navigation panel on the side. But you'll see the structure might be a little bit different. And then click on done. Here we go. Yeah, so I'll say even if we don't have the advanced license, we can already do a lot of stuff by using the chat version only. But it just save us some steps for formatting or aligning when it comes to editing mode inside of the Microsoft apps. All right, so that is Microsoft Word document with Copilot chat. Any questions so far? If not, I'm gonna have you to either save and close or just close out the Word document. And where did my slide go? Okay, so we're gonna go back to the slides and next, since we're talking about like generating text informations, I also want to talk a little bit about how we can utilize Copilot when it comes to email, right? So I will share with you a very messy email in the chat. So you can just copy and paste it. Right? So let me know if you do have the Copilot icon in your Outlook. If you do, we can turn on the Copilot inside of the Outlook. But if not, we can use the Copilot chat, right? So this time I will use Copilot chat instead, but whichever options that you have, right? So what, no, I don't want to stop. Okay, oh, a quick demo. If you send out your prompt too early, we can always stop it by clicking on the bottom right corner. You'll see a stop icon while it's processing. I already click on it, so you don't see that anymore. And then we can always go to the previous prompt. And then, let's see. Oh yeah, how come the editing is not there? Okay, maybe we'll wait for it's completed. Yeah, somehow the edit icon is not available. Let me see if oh, here we go. So after it generates the response, we can click on the edit pencil. So we can always go back to our previous prompt and then make edits. So I'll say I'm gonna ask Copilot to rewrite this email to make it more clear and do not use any like redundant word and cut all those excessive hedging and keep it under 150 words. And this is about, let's see, yeah, like a reaching out and touch base on the grant process. And you'll see it's very wordy, and it's very like conversational. It's not easy to get to the point, right? So we're gonna have Copilot to update it for us. And we specifically ask it to be underneath 150 words and highlight the next steps, right? So this is the result that we got. So I found this super helpful because many times when I was drafting emails, I'm just like typing as I thinking, and then I will go back and refine the word I'm using. And now with the help of Copilot, I don't need to do that myself. I can just dump all of my thoughts in the chat and then have Copilot to consolidate it to me. And another thing is sometimes, well, we always get mad with our like third-party contractors or like um, let's say suppliers, right? So if they're really late on the timeline, I always phrase like, I'm really angry right now, but how can I say it politely, right? Change the tone for me so it sounds more professional. That's something that I usually do. Okay. All right. So that is what we can do when it comes to Copilot in email addressing or generating. And then next, I do want to talk a little bit about the Copilot agent, right? Copilot agent is a great tool. So what agent does, it can help us to remove us from all those repetitive works, right? So the agents we create inside of the Copilot interface is called the declarative agent, right? So basically having a purpose to let Copilot do for us. So we usually create an agent when let's see, when we are working with tasks that always need certain guidance. It follows instructions. And let's see, we also use agent to create things that want consistent output and data secure. I mean, want the secure data source to be utilized. Let's say if we have a policy document that we always want to refer to a specific document to answer all those questions, right? I actually have a slide for that. Here we go. Data source is stable. And then when governance matters, right? So those are the scenarios why we would like to build a agent. So now let's try to build a agent together. So the agent I want to build, let's create a simple one. Let's do a meeting memo assistant, right? So let's say we're gonna plug in our meeting notes or meeting transcript, and then having this meeting note taker or meeting summarize assistant to help us to come up with a structured meeting agenda or not meeting agenda, meeting minutes. So we're gonna go to Copilot, and then on the left side menu, let me know if you see a agents option. So find the agent, and then we're gonna click more on new agents. And this is
No,
how
more agent or new agent?
the new agents.
New agent.
Yeah. So this will bring us directly to the agent creation interface. Okay, and then from here, we can either create a agent using basic prompts, right? So if you want to create agents that are pretty simple, like a meeting notes summarizer and you have a basic descriptions about that, feel free to do it with the prompt. But I usually prefer to go to the configure method. So what we can do is by clicking on the skip to configure at the bottom right corner of our text box. Okay. And then over here, this is what we get to define the agent name, add a description, and we can continue to build on the instructions. I found this is more structured for me to work on. And down below, we can also assign a specific knowledge, which is the file that you want this agent to be built based on. Right? Those could be a Teams meeting, an email thread, a Teams chat discussion that you would like to add, or if it's a local file, we can always upload from devices, right? Because I know that maybe not all of you have access to OneDrive or SharePoint. You download the file from third-party platforms, and then you can manually upload those local files to the agent as well as reference. Right? And underneath we have the capabilities. Like, do you want the agents to be able to create files and images, right? If we turn those off, then the response will always just be in plain text, right? And if sometimes we might want the agents to generate, let's say, a PowerPoint slide deck, right? Then I will suggest you to turn that on. So let's actually try build this together. So I have some pre-designed options available. So I will share in the chat, and you can actually utilize that as a start point for your own agent. So the first one, I'm just gonna call this the meeting notes organizer. Right? And the description is basically just one sentence or two sentences to summarize what this agent does. Because after we create the agent, we can share the agents with others. Sorry, I'm aware of the time. It's 3 p.m. right now. And if you need to go, feel free to do so. And everything will be recorded, so you will have access to all the content we'll be discussing for the remaining hours. Okay, sorry, I'm running a little bit over time for the agent part. Thank you for your understanding. All right, so underneath for the instruction, and that is exactly what do you want this agent do, right? So in the description, in the message that I send it with you, this is what I have here. So basically what I want this agent do is to turn the raw meeting notes or transcript into a clean summary, right? And in terms of the summary, I have a specific section. I have specific sections that I want. I want a meeting overview, a summary, key decisions, action items in a table format with the owner, task, due date, right? And then open questions for any things that were raised but not discussed or resolved during the meeting. And then next steps or follow-ups. And then for the rules, like only use what's in the notes, right? Do not just add whatever informations or interpretations just because you want to please the user, right? Sometimes generative AI do though. And if something is unclear, put it underneath the open question instead of guessing, right? So we are forcing it, but we're telling Copilot what not to do, which is equally important as what we tell Copilot to do. Keep it short and plain, no filler, no small talk, no side conversations. Keep the same 6 heading every time so that the output always look the same, right? So that's what we have here. And then if you scroll down, we also have the suggested prompts here. Okay, so the suggested prompts will be the prompts that be available when people start chatting with this agent. So they can just click on the prompts and then popped to their text box. And we have a title for that. So maybe thinking for this one, can say, this one is for notes, right? So if I'm sharing my notes, the prompt or the message I'll say it's organize my notes, paste it below. Right? And then another one is for meeting transcript. So I can say I've attached the meeting transcript, organized them into the standard summary. Any questions so far? Good. Okay. So once we have everything we need, we can go to the top right corner and click on Create. And that's how we create an agent. Okay. And then we can go to Agent. And you'll notice that on the left side, we had the meeting notes organizer showing up over here. Also, we can check at the top left corner. So we know that this chat is happening with this particular agent. Okay. And now what we can do, we're gonna use the messy meeting transcript sample here. So drag and drop this transcript. Okay, and supposedly we should have the suggested prompt. Let me check why that's not happening. Somehow it's not happening here. So I'm just gonna upload this file directly into my agent. And because all the rules, instructions that we've already set for this agent, we don't need to restate the details. And here we go. This is gonna be the templates or the structures for all of our meeting summaries from now on. So it'll be consistent. So I have overview, summary, decision, action items. Remember, we specifically asked for a table format, right? Okay. And then we can continue to ask follow-up questions, right? You can say summarize key decisions only or highlight open questions for follow-ups. We can do that, right? And then yeah, there you go. Highlight it for follow-ups. Let me know if your agent works okay. Give me a thumbs up if it works. Okay, great. Any question about agents?
So I know we had some things we wanted to work on, some practical problems. It sounds like say maybe checking a timesheet, which is something you could kind of define. That would be something we would build an agent around, give it instructions, and then we could throw in timesheets and it would look through them and give us outputs. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. I actually have a case study around the timesheet, so we can take a look at that very soon. But before we're diving into it, any other questions about today's training? I know 2 hours is a lot of information.
I did want to know, just as far as the layouts, I see new chat. Of course, we know what that is. The
Mhm.
library, is that just my list of old chats? Because I
Not
also see chats
necessarily
down below. Okay,
not
go ahead.
necessarily the chat. And I think since you brought up this one, I do want to talk a little bit about the libraries. So library is everything that we generated through the Copilot chat. So it could be files, it could be pictures, and it could be the pages, right? So pages specifically, I can do a quick demo using the meeting notes here. So after I receive this meeting note, but I want to make edits, right? So what I can do at the bottom of the result that you see, let's see, edit in pages, like the pencil icon when you hover over, right? So we can click on that and it will actually open up a page inside of Copilot chat or Copilot chat app, right? And now I can actually go into like summary, highlight, exclamation mark. I can start typing and fine tuning the contents that generated by Copilot. And then I can also share this page with my colleague or teammates so that we can collaborating the result together. So at the top right corner, I can click on share, right? I can share the page link. So you can say, yeah, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, actually, it's for security purpose. Everything stays within the organization, right? So I cannot share this link and share in the chat. So you won't be able to have access unless I manually typing in all of your email address. But you get the idea. And then, so maybe you can try to share some of your pages in the chat, and then you can cross-check with each other's pages. And then you'll be able to edit the same file, like how we work as a Google Doc or like a OneDrive file. I apologize if you hear dog barking. That's my dog next to me right now. Someone is outside the door, so he got a little anxious. 1 second. Okay, should be good for now. All right. And then once we created this page, right? So we can now go to the left side panel, go to libraries. And we have two options here, the pages and the images, right? So if I navigate to images, then those are all the images I generated by using Copilot. Right? And those pages, and that's the one that we just created now, right? So you don't have to go to a specific chat to find what pages that you've created. And then from the page, we can also like create a Word document or a PDF directly from here as well to carry it over to outside of Copilot chat.
Nice.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If no further question, but feel free to type in the chat as well. But we're gonna diving into our first case study, which is try to build another Copilot agent, right? Which is the timesheet reviewer. So why do we want to build this timesheet reviewer agent, right? So because right now we have repeatable compliance review that we currently do manually. So we have multiple files open side by side and cross-check and making sure that they align with one another. And for each review, there are multiple columns and multiple worksheets included, right? So the task will be every submitted timesheet won't need it to be checked for approval before the payments are sending out, right? And the rules we'll be looking for is a particular item inside of a pre-awarded document certificates, right? So rules are defined, which is nice because whenever we create an agent, we need rules to follow, right? And then right now it's just a lot of manual work and line by line check might accidentally introduce some errors, and then it's pretty slow. So why don't we have an agent to do everything for us? Right, so now we're still going to use the configure tab to do it. I will go over this and then we will go into Copilot chat and build it together. So first we need to give it a name. You can call it a timesheet reviewer or whichever name that you will understand or your team will understand, right? And then for the instruction, it will be nice if we can specifically list it on the points from item 7 in the instruction. I think that would be optimal. But I will also suggest you to upload the document that includes those, let's say, checkpoints as the knowledge, right? So they will cross-check with one another. The reason why I do want you to mention that in the instruction is sometimes, what if there are certain characters that it was that is not very well recognized, right? Or if image or chart is involved in certain requirements files, then I'll say confusions might introduce. So it's going to be hard for us to validate the result if the instructions is not clear. So if possible, I would suggest you to do twice just for more data security. And then we want it to only use the specific source, and that is the guidance source that we have, right? So do not reach out to internet and search for whatever other guidance that is out there. Just stick to whatever we provide. Okay, so here comes the exercise. So I'm gonna have you to, this time let's click on the more agents. By clicking on the more agents, what it does is that it will bring us to the agent store, right? So you'll see those are the agents that we currently created or we installed, right? And if we continue to scroll down, there are many other pretty amazing agents that Microsoft created for us, right? Feel free to explore them. And the list that I currently see on my screen might be slightly different from what you see. That just because the difference between the license and IT settings, like Learning Coach, one of my favorite ones, and Writing Coach, right? Kind of go along with the email agent that we were talking about. Okay, and then inside of this window, at the top right corner, we also find Create Agent, right? So we can click on Create Agent one more time. And then this time, let's build it together. We're gonna skip to configure. And even we are going into the configure page, on the left side, this is still a chat box that's open for us to refine our agents by using the prompts. Okay. So the name, what do you think the name would be? Any thoughts?
Timesheet compliance.
Timesheet reviewer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Timesheet reviewer. Okay.
Mhm.
Timesheet reviewer. I'm gonna call it number 2 because I've already created one earlier, but you can just call it timesheet reviewer. And then for the description, I'll say check submitted volunteer timesheet against the free award item 7 requirements. Right. If you don't want to type, I will share this in the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna open up those files just so that we can take a look at them. So pre-award documents certification inside of the documents that I shared with you. This is the standard that we were looking at, right? And we want to look specifically for item 7, and that is in page 3 and 4, right? This part over here. Okay. So I have service hours, tracked, like it's the difference between timing and time out, and training hours do not exceed 20% of the total hours for the service term. Lunch break are counted, must not be counted in service hours. Okay, found rising hours cannot exceed 10% of the total, and then signatures required, and certificate statements, so on and so on. So those are the things that we are checking whenever we're receiving a timesheet, right? So that's the file we will be uploading as the knowledge, right? So let's do that first. So we scroll down a little bit, right underneath the instruction text box, we have the knowledge. And then we're gonna go to the right side, click on the up arrow with the like a little dash at the top. So upload from device. We can either navigate that this way, but if you already have the file open on the side, I will actually suggest you to use the drag and drop again. Even though this looks very tiny, but it still works for drag and drop, like that. And here we go. All the uploaded files will show at the bottom of the knowledge section. Okay, so I'll pause here for a second and let me know if that works for you. Is it not working?
Is it working for you, Michael?
No.
Do-
Like I see, I'm under the knowledge knowledge
Yeah,
section.
I don't have the upload arrow under
Yeah.
the knowledge section.
Oh, so how about you try drag and drop?
Okay.
That didn't work for me, but yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. I'm not
It
sure why
didn't
it
work.
is. Again, we'll get this license thing sorted out, but
Okay,
otherwise we
that.
might
Didn't
just
work for me
follow.
either.
And I don't know
Oh, okay,
about you
okay.
guys, but it says the instruction, like it's looks like it's stalling and instructions can't be blank. Would that cause it to?
Usually no.
Yeah.
But let's see. Don't worry too much about it because we're gonna state the rules in the instructions anyway. So let's work on the instructions and see if we have any luck uploading the files. And I suspect this might be a licensing issue, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's okay. We can build on our instructions for now. Okay.
If nothing else, we'll watch you build it and we'll get the idea for sure. But yeah, hopefully we can copy paste these instructions in. But yeah, I'll let you go
Okay,
ahead.
okay. Sounds good. All right. So what I have here, let's see, where did it go? Yeah, so for the instruction, I can just copy and paste it. So at least you have that in the chat. So you can save it somewhere. It could be a start. It might not be 100% aligned with what you actually do at work, but it'll give you a quick understanding. So I'll copy and paste it here first. So over here, you can say you review the volunteer timesheet for approvability. Compare each submitted timesheet against the 7 requirements, right? And do not invent, only use what's in the files. And then checkpoints below comes from this file, right? If we have a particular file name, let's specify that. This is to build the connections between our instruction and the knowledge files that we upload. So if there's any mismatch or doesn't align, right? So we're gonna highlight and then see. Yeah, if there is any wording different for the checkpoints, follow the files and the note and note the difference, right? We are using the file as the golden rule. And the instructions here is for ease of understanding. Okay. And then we just transformed those requirements into the bullet points, right? So I don't think we need to go into the details, but you get the idea. You're typing in the exact instruction. And then for the output, I want it to be a table that contains requirement, pass, fail, or needed review, and the notes, right? So we're not asking Copilot here to make final decisions, but instead we're asking Copilot to run the first check for us and still and help us to highlight any things that are exceeding, let's say, the 20% or 10% threshold that require human review after that. Okay. So we also be specific if there's anything uncertain, we need to mark as review rather than guessing, right? So after you copy and paste the instruction, let's maybe try one more time and see if you can upload the knowledge. It's okay if it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it showing up. We'll just watch you.
Okay.
We can rebuild this later, but as long as you can take us through some steps on these, that'd be great.
Mhm.
Okay, no problem. So underneath that, I will just use some suggested prompts and we can use review uh, a timesheet, and then I can just put a message. I say like I uploaded this timesheet and review it against the 7 requirements and give me the result. All right, so I'll just use this one and then I'll say create. Okay. And I'll see. Go to the agent. Okay, so it's not updating it for me. So I'll go back to my agent window. For some reason, the timesheet reviewer tool is not saved properly Okay, but luckily I have that saved here. So save your instructions before you click on publish. I think this is like Microsoft is having like a technical hiccup. So sometimes it's not always storing your data.
I think
Yeah.
we've learned that today, that Microsoft is all over the place with licensing
Yep.
and what
Yep.
can and can't happen and all that. We'll get everybody on the same page, but I'm glad you've got the timesheet reviewer.
Yep. So I'm just gonna go into this timesheet reviewer, just quickly showing you it should be the same or it's at least similar to what we just had, right? I upload this information. So I'm gonna go to timesheet reviewer, and what I will do is I believe it's this one, right? AC timesheet.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
will drag and drop. Wait, I don't want to open it. What's going on here? Oh, stop. Okay, let's try one more time. Okay, here we go. And now you'll see the suggested prompt. It's supposed to be showing like that. It didn't show up for the previous prompt that we created. So I'll say I uploaded this and then it will plug in this to the chat and I will submit. I think this timesheet is currently empty. Let me double check. Oh, it does have information, so that's good. So I just plug in some fake data. Yeah, if you ever see the Python window show up, don't panic. It's not requiring you to like troubleshoot a Python code or writing anything. It's just everything happened behind the scene, thinking about the chain of thoughts prompt, right? So it's showing us what is happening right now, step by step. And I think Copilot is doing a good job, and also Claude is incorporating the chain of thoughts, but not for ChatGPT. I don't think so. Okay,
Oh, nice.
is that what you're looking for, Michael? Something?
Yeah, just comparing it from the pre-order checklist to the actual submission of the timesheet to ensure it's meeting all the criteria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can have a pass and fail. If it's
Hmm.
fail, then we're gonna look into it, right? It not necessarily means an actual fail, but it's
Hmm.
just fail for Copilot, and then we can manually validate. And signature, apparently we don't have any signature in the file, so it's definitely gonna be a fail. That's nice. Yeah, so we don't have anything in here. And fundraising hours and also training hours. And it not only show us the result, but also give us the explanation, right? What's the total hour and what the actual percentage is.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. And overall, not approvable, right? But this not approvable is not like the final decision, right? It's raising
Hmm.
human awareness. And even if it says approvable, double check, right? Just
Hmm.
don't take it for granted. Always double check. All right. So that is the timesheet reviewer agent that we just created.
Very
Is
good.
that a
Um,
helpful thing for AmeriCorps? Is that something you guys could actually use?
I mean, I think so.
Yeah, to
I mean,
some extent.
that's literally what we're doing is we're going through and checking each of those boxes and cross-referencing with what the program uploaded, which is a template to make sure that they completed that. I don't know if Kat or Steve or anybody else has any other thoughts on that.
Yeah,
yeah, I know.
understanding how to build an agent and what knowledge to input is applicable, I think, to a lot of things that we're
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm. Yeah, and you'll notice that for each result, it's referring to a particular file, right? So we're only working with one, and then technically, if you upload two worksheets at the same time, and it can be able to help us generating the two worksheets, just two different sets.
Hmm.
Yeah, should be okay. But I would suggest you to do that one by one, just in case it accidentally cross-reference two files and might create some confusion. All right, and
Nice, that's
then
cool.
Hmm.
yeah. The second agent I do want to talk about is the um, screening review assistants. Okay, so I created that beforehand, so I think it will be. Is it okay if I just show you what I plug in there? And I'll explain it step by step. I'll go to edit. So basically, the background here is for the AmeriCorps program, we require a lot of documents for background screening, right? We check for like each members, volunteers, and the staffs. So the screening documents can be consist of various file types. Could be Excel, could be PDF, Word document, or I don't know if you ever like use website links, or maybe if it's a certain requirements on a website, we can do that as well. So it's gonna be like even harder for us to just cross-check different file types. So previously with the timesheets, it's all in Excel, right? So even if I do that manually, I mean, still doable. Take us about like 10, 15 minutes for each timesheet. But this time, because we're comparing across multiple file types and the structures is inconsistent. When I was looking at the sample data that was shared with me, the name inconsistencies happens like for the name first and last name. For certain data source, we just have first and last, but others we have first, middle name, and last name. And for those people that have two last names or like two middle names, so there might be like a mismatch on those on the like employees or the volunteers, right? So it would be a good idea if we can just spot all those inconsistencies and in across the files. And we can decide which file that we wanted to use as the benchmark file. I believe in my current, let me also just share this to the chat and then you can continue building on this. So I think in this description particularly, what I did is to use I believe it was well, it's actually not in this file, like not in this folder. We'll check. I believe I was using the roster member as the benchmark file, but you can just pick whichever file that you want. It could be like the exhibit Excel worksheet. So what we are doing is to cross-check all the files. And then for this one, because every time we wanted to cross-check the screening result, we're going to upload the files to that. So there's no need to upload any files for knowledge, right? Everything starts fresh. And then suggested prompts, I just add one for general review. Review the uploaded file. And I believe what I wanted to do is to identify which file is the member rows, which file is the exhibit review workbook, and which file is the monitoring report. I specifically asked this just in case, because of the different naming, Copilot might accidentally understand or mismatch the files and the rules, right? So we wanted to say it out loud first so we can check if it's okay and then moving on to the next step. Okay, so that is this agent and we're gonna try it. So what I will do is to believe it was this one, this, and it's the monitoring report. So I'll select those three reports in the chat. And I'll use this prompt. So identify which file is what, and then cross-check the records and provide table showing any missing, incomplete, pending inconsistencies, or data related. And don't make final compliance decisions. Flag items just for human review purpose. Right.
While it's thinking for if you're able to be more specific, like if it's on an Excel file, and there's a certain like because what we're looking for here is the date that the background checks came back for AmeriCorps volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's under a specific like column of that
Hmm.
spreadsheet. Would that help? I mean, like typing that in and into the prompt, would that help?
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And I do believe I put that in the instruction. We'll see the result.
Okay.
So I have Copilot to looking into that particular all those dates,
Mhm.
and whether the name shows up in all three documents. We have a match, yes or no. And then anything else? Think there was a column for like pre-adverbs. Uh, yeah, so all those information, we have it
Mhm.
to consolidate it into the final report so that basically we're merging the information into one single table, right? And then we can cross-check.
Mhm. Gotcha.
And so this is taking a little while. Do you notice that some days are faster than others? Is it a Microsoft thing? Is it a you pay more and you get faster results? How does that all work?
Great question. So technically, it's not about how much you pay. It's just about the data sets that you're working on. And sometimes it also matters with like the Microsoft server. So if a lot of people are using it at this moment, you can actually crush. Just wait for a couple minutes and come back. And for especially for we're having it to looking into three documents with various file type that generally it takes a little bit longer. Um,
Hmm.
okay, here we go. So file identification, right? So this is the member rows and this the file name, specifically one after another, and it gave us a little summary about what it's inside of those files, so we can validate that before reviewing the result. And the structure review, so we have the person here, start date, whether we have a match or not. So not all the names that we see in the roster file is going to be shown in the exhibit 3, right? So we might have a not found in here, all those status,
Mm.
date. Yeah, and those are the columns that I specify. But if you're looking for additional information or you want to swap out some columns, feel free to do so, right? We just use the pipe symbol to indicating the column headers.
Mhm.
Okay. And that is every single entries. So we might have a not found, right? And we can see we can copy and paste the results, or if we want, we can ask for what, oh, it's still generating. So I'm gonna wait until it's done. So we
Mhm.
can also say that turn the structured review table in the Excel file,
Oh,
right? And
perfect.
then we can moving forward with further data analysis.
That's great.
Yeah. So that we can filter out all the no found, right? And then we
Mhm.
can double check whether it's true or not. I do want to highlight certain thing. Okay, I see over here it says name matching issue. Um, so it actually identifying that it shows this name, which might be the same person as
Mhm.
like this entry might be the same person as this name, right? So the name are
Mhm.
quite similar. They might have like two last names mentioned, or they have middle names incorporated into one file, so we can check those.
So for the AmeriCorps folks, is this something that would help you guys, or would you still have to go back and start checking all these anyway? Like, does this get you any farther than you would be if you were doing this on your own?
I think it would, or at least my opinion, at least it would get us a little farther down the road quicker. Some of those we may have to go back, we definitely have to go back and review to make sure. Um,
This seems like a complex task for it, and I'm just wondering
Mhm.
if Microsoft 365 is the best tool for that, or I'm sure there are
Right.
other tools that you could be built to do this. I mean, it seems really good at summarizing. It seems really good at email
Mhm.
generation, some of that, the kind of quicker, simpler tasks.
Mhm.
This, it seems like it kind of makes some work along with taking away some work, but it's very interesting. It's cool to
Yeah.
see how these are built.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, and you can see summary down below, right? Without looking into the table, we can actually get a understanding about what is going on here. So number of node issue found based on the provided file, and we also have a lot of name matching issues, right? Examples are provided,
Mm.
right? The incompleted fields, maybe some field print, adjudications, data are blank. So those might be something that we wanted to pay attention to. Right. And in the initial instructions, I actually write it in very detailed level. So basically, uh, when you're creating an agent, you can treat it like what do you do from end to end, right? So basically typing in every single steps that you would generally do, like you are training a junior analysis. And then once it's done, it will repeat the steps over and over again. Hope that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and one last thing, so maybe I will not create an agent, but I do want to share with you is that maybe after today's training, we can build a Copilot agent that is for Copilot IT help desk, right? So for all those regulations that you build internally, we can use that as the knowledge, right? So now it can answer everybody's question about how to use Copilot safely, right? Because after we create the agent, we can share it with the team, with a particular group, right? So it can give us answers like, how do I do A, B, C, and D? Or can I upload file 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And let's say, how do I generate a better prompt, right? So if you have a prompt libraries, right? So feel free to attach the links for those libraries in the chat as well, like depending on like whether you want to just view only or edit mode or whichever that you prefer, right? So it's for every staff from the team, and we can just ask questions in plain languages, right? So I do found many of my clients they do this, and it also frees a lot of IT teams time to answering all those questions, and people from other department they don't need to feel like burden for like, oh, I don't want to bother with you for this one simple question, but they also don't want to look into like 20 pages of guidance, right? So we can just plug
Mm.
everything into agents and have it taken care of for us.
Mm. And that then is available. So with our Microsoft 365, all being on the same domain, everything one person creates, the other person can see and use. Is that right? Libraries are transferable, chats are transferable, agents,
So
or we would set this.
unfortunately, chats are not transferable, but what we can do, like when we try the pages, right? So if you are okay with the result, we can turn the chat result into pages, and that is transferable. And in terms of the agent, once you create it, it's by default to be private, which is accessed by you yourself only. But we can share it, so we can click on
Mm.
the dots and then share, and then anyone in your organization, right? We can share that, and then you can copy and paste the link so they can access it through the link. And then if they, yeah, I don't think there is a shared to me section, and but I do believe that if you share it to everybody, they should be able to access it underneath your agent section. That's what it says from Microsoft. But technically, nobody has ever shared an agent with me before, so I cannot validate that. So yeah, let me know if it's something else. I'm more than happy to look into it.
And so that's really helpful. Thank you. So that's within our domain. We have also talked about people out in the world wanting to know, like, how do I become an AmeriCorps member? How do I, general knowledge type questions that they might ask. Are these kind of things publishable then on our website or through some kind of a SharePoint page, maybe, where we can guide people to an agent we build with a bunch of information about how to sign, you know what it would look like, basic
Yeah.
information, and answer their questions for them, so that you were just saying, instead of calling somebody and talking to them, that this agent would answer some basic questions.
Yeah, so for the agents that we created over here, it's restricted inside of the organization. But the agent type that you were talking about, it's advanced agent that we need to create in Copilot Studio, which is a whole another new world. So basically, it's kind of the same idea using like the APIs. So we're using the language model for our organization, and then we build a brand new agent based on that for the general public. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And then those are publishable on a web page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yep.
correct.
Cool. Yeah, that's something we could look into.
Okay.
I don't
Any,
know.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask Jason, our finance team, because we've done a lot of the AmeriCorps stuff. Was there anything from the finance team? I know you guys were working on different spreadsheets, and it seems like it can really think about rows and columns really easily. Any questions from the finance team that you guys, any pain points or anything like that? We have maybe 15 minutes left. It sounds like maybe not. All right.
Okay. So, going on with that, Eric, I have something in mind. So, maybe for financial analysis, let me know if that's true or not. So what I had experienced is that especially when we're importing data set from external partners, in certain fields require, let's say, manual typing, right? So the results might not always be consistent in terms of the case, right? We might have uppercase, lowercase. We might introduce some typos like trailing or leading spaces or additional spaces in between. Those are the formatting issues that we need to fix, right? So once you have the premium license, I think that will be super powerful to just have Copilot to clean up your data. So it can clean up all the case and formatting information. And let's say if you want to format a specific column or multiple column at one time, so you can just use basic prompts. And let's say format my column A to show the short date format, right? Of course, we can do that manually, but having a prompt library, just having each prompt for the entire data analysis process for anybody that might not be very strong with the Excel, they will still be able to do the exact same process like a Excel expert that does it. And then one thing that we can also utilize Copilot inside of Excel with the premium license is that we can use it to create pivot tables, pivot charts, or even perform advanced analysis for us. So Excel does support Python behind the scene. So for those who doesn't come with a programming background, we might barely use the Python function in Excel. But with the help of Copilot, we can just ask Copilot to analyze the data set in Python. Say if we want to do forecast or what if analysis, right? So those can all be done through the Copilot inside of Excel. And since we do have some time, I have a few more slides that I wanted to quickly go over. It's about prompting for data analysis purpose. So prompting, like general prompting, is slightly different from prompting for data analysis. And the main reason is that when it comes to data analysis, we have very low tolerance for error, right? So we're basically dealing with facts, right? Not assumptions or not expectations, right? So the data analysis, if there is any like small assumptions, it can turn into wrong conclusions. So what happened to me once when I was analyzing a sales relevant data for one of my clients. So there are some sales transactions with missing values, and those values are okay to be missing, right? So it's not gonna interfere with the final result. But when I just use Copilot to say like, let's predict, or like let's uh, summarize the information. And because those cells, either the unit number or like the total sales information are missing, what Copilot actually does is it will try to fill in those empty cells while it's performing the analysis and then generate me the forecast and predictions, which I will say sometimes might be okay, but other times if we intentionally leave those cells as blank, then we might want to be extra careful and set up constraints to be like, do not like trying to fill in the blanks, keep the empty cell as is and treat it as a zero. So those prompts needs to be very strict. So we do not want to include any little assumptions, because especially for like the column with the notes, right? So maybe for the notes we can say, oh, this increase for by let's say we have a trend of increase, but that might just be our human assumption because we type it in the notes, right? But when we're using the file in Copilot, Copilot treats human assumptions as facts. So it will say that there is an increased trend, even it might not 100% to be
Mm.
true. Yeah, those are the things that we need to pay attention to. Yeah. And yeah, on top of the general prompting, we usually add constraints. So this is where we set boundaries to making sure that the answer will stay focused, right? Or we force validate. And this could be very simple. So we can just say like, explain how you calculate that, right? Or list which grantees you're counted as behind, right? Or are you sure this is the correct answer? Sometimes like simple prompts like that can really crush Copilot. So it was like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is what you mean. So let me update it for you, right? You'll see those funny moments, even for Copilot inside of Excel, which is less likely to happen, but still, right? And we might compare across multiple documents, right? If we do not specify that, it might just looking into one single file. It's possible, right? So if we wanted to compare, specify it, and we do sensitivity check, that is more about like the what if analysis that I was talking to, like if the spending continues at this pace, which grantees won't finish on time, right? Things like that. Okay, hope that makes sense. Any other questions? All good?
All right. If not, I really appreciate it, Shirley. This has been at least very helpful for me. It kind of opens your eyes to what's possible, what we might be able to use this for, giving it prompts, reprompting, iteration, all that kind of thing. So some things to keep in mind. And we can come back and continue to do more training if we need to. But thank you very
Yes.
much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank you,
you.
Thank you.
everyone. Yeah, and as I mentioned, the recordings will be available, and also I will share with you the slides, so that you can refer back to it and practice with it, have conversation, and let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Feel free to shoot me an email. I will try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. All right, other than that, take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you. Bye-bye.